Hey guys, welcome to another video. My name is Ian. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing a ranking of all of the novels by one of my all-time favorite authors, SA Cosby, who has a brand new book out June 10th called King of Ashes. I have been looking forward to making this video for quite some time. I love SA Cosby. I've talked about his books a number of times on my channel, but in this video, I will be reviewing all of his major novels. So what I mean by that is he has, I believe, 5 novels that are kind of his main books, and then additionally he has co-written a middle grade book with Questlove, which I have not read, and then he has an Audible original novella that I also have not read. But these are his 5 main crime novels that I will be talking about today, and spoiler alert, I love all of them. I think that S.A. Cosby is an absolutely incredible author who just perfectly nails a gritty tone with down-to-earth and recklessly real characters. He has just characters that sometimes frustrate you and aggravate you with the decisions they make, but at the same time, they're so human, they're flawed, and he just so brilliantly brings all of his stories together with deep themes, amazing characters, and non-stop plots that will have you on the edge of your seat. If you have not read an S.A. Cosby book, this is me saying please give his books a try. They are incredible. But like I said, he has a brand new book coming out June 10th called King of Ashes. This is pitched as a Southern crime thriller, like Godfather-esque story. If you're anything like me, I was immediately drawn in by the concept of this novel. And I'm here today to talk to you guys about this book, but additionally all of his other novels, and let you know where this book places on my ranking of S.A. Cosby's 5 main novels. Before we jump in, I would love it if you would let me know if you've read any S.A. Cosby books. If so, which one is your favorite? Like I said, I enjoy all of his books, so if you told me any of them was your favorite, I wouldn't hold it against you. He's an incredible writer. So let me know if you've read any of his books, if you want to read any of his books, and if you're excited about King of Ashes, because it's a pretty great book. Without any further ado, though, let's jump into the ranking. In 5th place, we have S.A. Cosby's debut novel, My Darkest Prayer. So this was originally, I believe, a self-published novel, or at the very least, it was in a smaller press, and was later re-released after he had put out, I think, 2 novels. So between Razorblade Tears and All the Sinners Bleed, he re-released My Darkest Prayer. And this is definitely a first novel, I will say that much. It's a 4-star book for me. I still really enjoyed it, but ultimately this is a book that kind of lays the groundwork for what you can expect from S.A. Cosby novel, but doesn't necessarily do any of the things that he later does amazingly well to perfection. This is a story that follows a man living in a small town, and he kind of does a handful of different jobs. He works at his cousin's funeral home. He kind of is a bouncer at a bar. He was a part-time sheriff or a deputy sheriff for a while. He's kind of done a lot of different things, but now he kind of looks into things for people. And one day, the people of this church, this leadership team of this church, come to him asking him to investigate the death of one of their ministers because it seems a little bit suspicious. They don't want it to be just brushed under the rug, and so he decides to get into it, but ultimately gets tangled in a web of a lot of different craziness in this small town. It's very much a story about unearthing the dark secrets in a small town. And that is a common theme in a lot of S.A. Cosby books. And like I said, this is a book that definitely feels like an S.A. Cosby book, but more like an S.A. Cosby like prototype, if that makes sense. He does a lot of things here with some gritty characters that are very real and anti-heroes. He does stuff with like the small town and the dark secrets of the small town, and some great action, some violence, some shady characters, things like that. He does all those things that he does again later in other novels, not quite as well as he eventually does. So I appreciate this novel for what it is, and if this was the first S.A. Cosby book that I read, I might have enjoyed it more. Ultimately, I do think that it is not his strongest outing, though, and he definitely grew a lot as a writer between this and his next novel, which we'll talk about later. Like I said, though, this is a good book anyway. My Darkest Prayer is a 4-star for me and is not my favorite S.A. Cosby book, my least favorite actually, but it's still a great novel. Okay, coming in 4th place is King of Ashes, of course, by S.A. Cosby. So I will admit, my expectations were very high coming into this book, and that may have partly done this book a disservice, unfortunately. So what we have here is, like I said, in some ways a classic situation for S.A. Cosby. You've got this character with kind of a dark past, some trauma, who enters into this situation kind of just trying to help other people, and ultimately ends up getting tangled in a situation with some very dangerous individuals and having to sort all of that situation out. And this happens in a lot of his books. This book is pitched as a Southern crime, like Godfather type story. And in some ways I was expecting like Godfather Part 1 of the films, at least, you know, where you've got this pre-established mafia family type thing, and I thought that was kind of what we were getting with this main character family in this series, or in this book. That's not really the case. It's more like Godfather Part 2, where we get kind of like the building of this empire, if that makes sense, which sounds awesome and is awesome. The only problem with that is I felt that this book was a little bit too short for that. It's about 330 pages, which is pretty typical for an S.A. Cosby book, but at the end of the book, I found myself wanting a bit more. In some ways, I almost wish that this was a series, and if it's announced that this is a series and this is just book 1, I am over the moon about that and very excited for book 2. However, typically, S.A. Cosby puts out standalone books, and if this is a standalone, I find myself just feeling a little bit let down by the overall experience that I got. That's a lot of negatives. But ultimately, this is a really fantastic book. The pacing is incredible. You have some characters who are absolutely diabolical in this, and some characters that have to do diabolical things to protect the ones that they love, and it is so engaging. I could not stop reading this book. I found it so compelling, and I think that there are some dark moments in this story as well. It was jaw-dropping at times. It was shocking. It was emotionally impactful for sure. There's a very complex family dynamic here with these 3 siblings. The main character has kind of gone off on his own, abandoning his sister and his younger brother to establish this kind of career for himself. He's a very successful businessman. He has a lot of money. He makes other people a lot of money, and now he has to return home because his father has an accident and is in a coma. And so he's returning home to take care of his siblings, who are not, children, but have a lot on their plates. Additionally, his father is the owner of this funeral home with I think it's just actually a crematorium. I take that back. So it's not a funeral home. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the story, and there are these gang members who are after the main character's little brother for some reasons that we're not going to get into. But ultimately, like I said, I think that this novel does a lot of things right. It's very compelling. It has some very twisted characters. It's got some very compelling emotional story beats in it. But I had 2 main gripes with it. One, the brevity of the story felt like it was just a little bit rushed, particularly the final act of this story. It just all wrapped up very quickly, and it didn't quite give me enough time to sit with it. And additionally, where we end up at the end of the story, I just wanted a little bit more of leading up to that than what we got. Secondly, I have a couple issues with some of the characters in this. Our main character is he definitely is very bold, and just does whatever he has to do. But there are some characters around him that are so stupid to the point that it's almost beyond belief. Doing dumb things is fine. It happens. It in some ways propels a story forward because somebody will do something dumb that ultimately leads to a problem that then has to be solved. But the level of stupidity from one of these characters was just so alarming that I couldn't get past it. It almost felt like it was a plot convenience that this character was so dumb, rather than a realistic depiction of what somebody would do in this situation. So maybe that's just me. If you've read this book and don't feel that way, go you. I still think this is a really great book. And again, if this had been my first S.A. Cosby book, I might feel differently about it. I just had very high expectations going into this story, and ultimately I was a little bit let down by what I got because those expectations were so high. I still recommend this book. It's like a 4 to a 4.25, but not my favorite S.A. Cosby book, and I hope that I enjoy his next book a little bit more. Okay, guys, from this point on, the top 3 novels are all 5 stars. I love S.A. Cosby so much. I feel like I need to say that because I got a little negative on talking about the last book, but all 3 of these books are amazing. Some of my favorite crime books, some of my favorite fiction books, some of the most compelling reading experiences I've ever had. If you want a crime story with raw storytelling, real characters, and some of the most gripping and intense moments you will ever read, pick these 3 books up. You will not be led astray. Trust me on this, okay? Coming in the number 3 spot is the book that really made S.A. Cosby the name that he is today. It's the book that really blew up in popularity, as far as I am concerned, at least. And that book is Razorblade Tears. This story rocks, okay? It is so intense. It is so good. And it's the story that did make me fall in love with S.A. Cosby's books because it was the first one that I read. This story revolves around two dads. Each of them had a son. One of the dads is black and their son was black. One of the dads is white and their son is white. And those two sons were married, I believe, or they were together. And they are murdered. And nothing really comes of it. No crime is solved in this. It's just kind of swept under the rug. And so these two dads take it into their hands to go and find who did this and make them pay. And it is so crazy. Like, this book had my jaw on the floor. The level of, like, all out. It's like John Wick, but with two dads going to avenge their sons. And it was freaking crazy. It was so insane. I love the action in this. I love how absolutely, like, raw and, like, it pulls no punches. It really doesn't. It is intense. It is action-packed. It is bloody. It is wild. It is non-stop. But additionally, it has such a powerful emotional component because it's the dads of these boys, these men that were murdered. And additionally, that the dads really struggled in their relationships with their kids, understanding them, loving and accepting them. And now there's so many doors that are just closed because of the things that happened. And so they're trying to find redemption for themselves and come to peace with their relationship with their sons as well. The stakes are high, both physically and emotionally, and I absolutely love that about this book. It is compelling, it is emotional, it is powerful, it's awesome. It is the book that made me think, this is a guy I'm going to want to pay attention to for the rest of his career, and I love it so much. I really, really do. Go check out Razorblade Tears, guys. You will not regret it. And the top three are so hard to rank. Like, take this ranking loosely, guys, because I love all of these books so much. So much. But we have to have a number 2 and we have to have a number 1. So without any further ado, let's talk about my second favorite S.A. Cosby book, and that is All the Sinners Bleed. Oh man, this book is really, really good too. I think that this book is what made me realize the scope that S.A. Cosby could achieve. Because this is a really big story. It really is. So there's a lot of things going on in this novel. We have a main character who is a sheriff in this town. But at the start of the story, there is a school shooting. And it seems kind of cut and dry to a certain extent, except the perpetrators being a little bit strange. And the sheriff catches on to this. And after that takes place, the sheriff makes a very shocking discovery that uncovers a lot of dark secrets, not only with the people around this school shooter, but in the city in general, and things go from there. In his previous 3 books, My Darkest Prayer, Blacktop, Wasteland, and Razorblade Tears, S.A. Cosby had tackled race in some ways. It was definitely an aspect of his stories, but this one really brings it to the forefront because not only do you have all of the things going on like in that aspect of the plot that are really crazy, but additionally, the main character, the sheriff or the leader of this law enforcement team, he is African American, and the town is primarily white. And they are not particularly happy with the fact that he's in charge now. And there are a lot of racial tensions that arise, a lot of hatred that arises, and some really shocking moments to experience in this book, given the fact that it's set in present day. But these things shouldn't be shocking because there's so much racism and hatred that still exists today. And S.A. Cosby does not shy away from that. He tackles it in some truly alarming ways. Additionally, this book has even more going for it somehow, that it kind of turns into a serial killer story as well. So you've got school shooting, dark secrets of this town, racial tension, a sheriff, a serial killer. This book truly accomplishes so much in so little time. And in some ways, this is the book that makes me be a little bit more disappointed in King of Ashes, because I think I expected that level of scope and grandeur from King of Ashes because I got it in All the Sinners Bleed. But it wasn't quite to that level, and I have to say All the Sinners Bleed in some ways is, at least up to this point, S.A. Cosby's magnum opus. And I will stand by that until he tops it, because this book is amazing and is probably objectively the best book that he's written, but it's not quite my favorite. My favorite is Blacktop Wasteland, and I adore this book so much. So in this novel, we follow Bug. He was a getaway driver, and he has, obviously, with that, a very dark and shady past. But he's trying his best to leave that behind. He's a father. He's trying to be a good man, be worthy of his family, and he's just trying to be good. But ultimately, he gets dragged back into a life of crime for one last job, which is such a cliche kind of like trope, but I love it. And I also just love this tortured main character, how he's trying to be good, but life won't let him be good. The people around him won't let him be good. It deals with themes of fatherhood and right and wrong and the paths we take and how much of those things are predetermined by our circumstances in our lives and our past actions and whether or not we can truly restart. It is a bittersweet book. It is a not ambiguous story, but a story that goes in some directions that you don't necessarily anticipate. And all the while, it is full of edge of your seat action and tension and drama, and it is just such a good book. And I just connected with his story in a way that I connected with all of his books, but I connected with this one in a very special way, and that's why it's my personal favorite. But at the end of the day, that's what it has to be. Like, my number one has to be my personal favorite when I'm doing this kind of ranking, and the top 3 are all 5 stars. At the end of the day, I just have to think which one resonates with me the most, and Blacktop Wasteland is that book. And I love it so much. I don't know if it'll ever be replaced as my favorite. Again, All the Sinners Bleed and Razorblade Tears are really right there. They're all 5 stars, but this one is my favorite book, and I think it is a great starting place for S.A. Cosby's story. So if you want to know where to start, I recommend Blacktop Wasteland. But that's all for this video, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know, like I said, if you love S.A. Cosby's books as much as I do. Check out King of Ashes, which is out on June 10th. And check out his other books, too, because they're all amazing. Let me know also if there are any other authors you'd like me to do a ranking of their books. I try to do at least a handful of these a year, so I do have a couple other ones planned for the near future. But this is just the one I decided to go with since he's one of my favorite authors and his new book was coming out. So, yeah, let me know what you're interested in seeing, though. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.